offside guys. So
Well,
we'll see how that goes. But
uh,
that's my interesting um, live study this year to see if I am any good at forecasting quarterbacks. That'll tell us whether we can go the late quarterback route efficiently or not.
yeah, I'm curious to how that's going to work. Some of that data I'm recording now. Thought since we're kind of pontificating a little bit, so I think I'll do two recordings. The one with the new matchup lab,
Yes. Yeah.
and then stop recording, and then I'll start again for the regular podcast, which will be different. We, you know, uh, I guess we have an opportunity to touch on some other games that
Yes.
if we
Yeah.
want, or
Yeah, I think
philosophy.
that's
I
a
mean,
good
there's a
idea.
lot of, yeah, other things we could do here. Any kind of pickups, just whatever, just reacting to the games. We have some options there, and I think I'll just I won't put a fence around it. We'll just take we will blow where the wind blows us on things, and that'll
There
be
you go.
that. So
That works great. That works great. I think we should do the matchup lab show
yeah,
first.
yeah.
I'm
And
not going to record.
I have the stuff. I have not had time to update the over under things, so I'm assuming it's pretty close. If it's not, you can certainly correct me. I don't anticipate great changes, but I have not had time to.
Now, and we got one obvious squirrel and one obvious husky game that are,
Yeah,
well
well,
above, and then there's a middle
yeah,
ground.
yeah.
I thought the Tennessee Denver game would be
Hmm.
our other squirrel, and I had the Detroit Green Bay game as being our other
Yeah,
husky.
Dennis, uh, I don't have any preference. I'm ready to squawk as needed.
And
Uh,
and I've stayed in form because I don't have a pick down until I see
the
the
data.
entire data
Yeah,
and go through it one more time.
yeah. It's
That type
always
of
good
thing.
to have a data. I'm a sleepy dog here. Anyway, I've got my PowerPoints. I've got the games, the ranks, uncertainty stuff for any and everything. So everything is there. The power rankings, last year's efficiency, all that's ready to roll here. And I've got a new wrinkle thing that I'm going to kind of add a little bit, just some
We
more
like
data here.
wrinkles. We
Yeah,
like
some
some wrinkles.
some
Yeah.
things here. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll see how it all goes. I figure on the podcast we'll discuss the two other games, maybe match up. Just, do you want to pontificate a little bit on the matchup and then go into, or just kind of keep it short and let's go to the Husky Squirrels and walk out of there? I mean, what I did want is to, whatever we did first, I was going to try to define my data, the presentation, give definitions and things first, since people may be tuning in.
Yeah, that'll be the first time a lot of people see this
Yeah,
data. I
so I
think that's
thought we
very
might
important.
do that, maybe something like that for a few weeks, and then just go from there. I don't know
No,
what.
it's a good idea.
And
Let's do
then
that.
you can, uh what I would appreciate is you kind of come in and give a overall your view of these in general. As these have changed over the years, what have you seen, help
Yeah. Yep.
what's not been so, just critique it kind of thing, and then we'll go from there into the Squirrel Husky.
Perfect. 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 So yeah,
Do we
let's
want to
jump.
show our faces? Greg Kellar, he's a big
Nah,
face fan.
we want to show data.
Yeah, that's what
We
I
want to
thought.
stay on brand.
Yeah.
When we appear on their podcast, we'll show up
Yeah.
with a face.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll stay on brand here
Okay.
and do our thing.
Okay.
Um, I
Okay.
think that's the strategy. If we want to change that up as time goes, that's fine
Yeah, I
too.
don't. Yeah, I don't
I
think
don't.
it adds anything to what we're doing.
No,
Our
no.
pretty face is not going to bring them running to say, "Who are these cats?" They're going to be like, "Who are these old geezers?" They, Greg, crazy uncle and grandpa out of the retirement home to talk football. You know, we're still talking
uh,
Red Grange here.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
some of those
actually,
old timers.
yeah, I think, there's a real shot here this week that Kenny Stabler could be
Oh my
a
goodness.
big factor, and
The snake.
I
Yeah,
know he's a great quarterback.
yeah.
Okay, he's won Super Bowls, he's won championships, but don't play Bart Starr this week.
No,
I'm
no,
begging you
yeah,
not to
no,
play Bart Starr.
yeah, yep. I believe you need to trade him in for somebody else.
Yeah, and it was sad. It was sad to see Len Dawson struggle
Oh my
last night.
goodness.
They
Yeah.
had to go to this rookie
Yeah,
Mahomes, Mahomes.
Mahomes. Yeah,
Not
Mahomes.
really sure what that guy's name, but he did okay. So
Yeah,
that might be the last we see of Lenny Dawson. But
yeah,
yeah,
I think so. Goodbye.
yeah. All right, are we ready to jump right into this thing?
Yep.
All right, here we go. How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson, D. Mike Media on Twitter. Welcome to the Matchup Lab here on the Sports Affiliation. We are so excited to bring a new show going deep into the data for some of the biggest games and the more annoying games every week in the National Football League. And joining me, as he will each and every week here on the Matchup Lab. And hey, during the offseason, folks, we won't go away. We'll just be bringing you a data lab when we crunch through all of the things that we learned during the season. But he is the fantasy professor, he's a real professor. It's John Bush. And John, pretty exciting week one of the NFL and a new show for us.
New show. Same two old guys talking. We folks, if you've never heard us before, we're definitely metric and data centric. That guides us. It's not the end; it's the beginning of thinking. We're trying to help you learn to catch your fish, not just give you the fish. There are other sites you can pay to get people's fish, but we're giving it away for free, uh, and support our sports affiliate people or all our friends there. And here we go, just throwing out data tidbits and trying to help you focus your thinking on the games. We'll give you some examples. We'll usually pick about what two really spectacular, we think, fireworks, lots of points, and then those that are not so good and maybe more of a defensive struggle, which has its place in fantasy. What is it? You don't understand laughing until you know about crying, Dennis. That's what the song said. So you can't know about the heartbreak of fantasy. I think Dennis is a Chiefs fan, so he could probably weeping some tears over last night's game. My thinking is I hate weird days and weird places, so I'm never a fan of any of that. I never think we're getting the true form of what could be, So anyway, that's just a little editorial. I'm sure I'll go crazy on our regular podcast, which if you go to the Science of Fantasy Football, you can check our regular podcast. But we're off on the sports affiliate, Dennis. So should I start sharing data here, or you want to make any comments?
Well, I'll set up what we're going to do today, and then we'll show
Okay.
the data and we'll explain a little bit for the first show here on how we use this data. But we look at the two extremes here on the Matchup Lab. We look at the squirrel game, so named because there's those annoying low scoring games where you have to really be careful on what you choose for your fantasy football lineup. And then there's the big, beautiful Husky games. And I admit, I named them the Husky games because my big dog, Ashton, is such a wonderful, wonderful, big, fluffy Husky. So it just seemed right that these are Husky games. They're large scoring games and they offer great opportunities. But we have a bunch of different data sets that we look at from efficiency data, home away splits, and see what Vegas is saying as well before we cook it all up in a nice little soup and serve it to you with our predictions. So, Professor, why don't you
Yeah,
explain some of the metrics we will be using?
right. So start out, I like to, and I have this figure, and I'm not sure, Dennis, where if this will make it to their website, but it will be at our website, these hard copies of everything we talk about. I'll put it as a special file, Matchup Lab week one, and you can look at this because this is a lot of colors and numbers and this it takes a while. I don't expect you, right, I'm a professor, this is kind of homework, to you to memorize everything and I will give you a test at the end. No, this is just notes that you can start studying. So I think you can get the most out of it if you start learning our definitions of things that we're focusing on. Not everything, but a beginning. It's a beginning. Every metric should be a beginning and inspire your thinking. Okay, so this is my efficiency, home away splits, passing and rushing attempts. Just looking at 2024, Dennis, I've got some other data looking at last 3 years. I wanted a view of that. I use the top down approach, so I like multiple years and team level, getting down to the position and into the player. So top to bottom is how I like to look at a lot of data in fantasy football here. But here's teams. This was 2024. It's EFF. That's efficiency. It is defined over here by metric based on team points scored, real points on the scoreboard, their total yards gained, passing, rushing, and all set to second of offense. So there's some speed involved, right? If they score a lot of points, put up a lot of yards per second, that's probably a pretty good team. And they are in green. But for last year, Buffalo, Denver, Detroit, Philadelphia, Washington, those probably, well, yeah, I knew those were good. Well, here's the metrics. And what fell out to me was I really like Washington last year. They didn't quite go as far as I thought they could, but they were really high. So just kind of keep that going here. I also have 2024 home slash away. That is a ratio. If you remember your fractions, you may not want to remember your fractions, but this is a ratio. And I asked the question, what is the team's efficiency at home? what is the team's efficiency away? So, and you're thinking, well, it's not the same. No, actually, it's not. So if you were thinking it's all the same, they don't. Because, Vegas will give the home team 2 or 3 points in the spread on most situations, unless it's a terrible team or just a spectacular team. So I like to know what teams tend to do great at home, right? Now you could start seeing the fantasy points clicking in versus what teams suck away or what teams do good. And if you're a betting person, teams that do away better than you think might be an opportunity in betting and in other kinds of, your lineup decisions. So 1.00 is equal, right? They're the same. They're nothing dramatic. I have colorized the home bias team, Arizona, Denver. Miami was the highest, 35% more efficient at home. That's crazy.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
New Orleans, 22%. San Francisco, 1.22, so 24%. The away team, look at Dallas, you know, 14% better. So Thursday game, Dallas did better than I think people thought. They have a tendency to do 14% better last year. Also, Tennessee, Dennis is 22. They are really skewed out there. So another law of metrics to me is the extremes. A lot of time data clusters around an average, right? So around 1.0, 1.5, 95. That's about the same, right, folks? There's nothing uh, dramatic, but these dramatic extremes probably tell you something. And they may even hold year to year. I haven't done the study. So that's that. Then I'm curious about how teams rush or pass. So rush attempts, ATT, pass attempts. So what teams rush more at home? What teams uh, do not rush more at home, right? So high rushers at home, Arizona's 22%, Indianapolis, Green Bay, New England, the Jets, Frisco loves to rush home. I'm getting excited here, Dennis. Okay. And the Dallas rushes 13% more away. So Javante doing away, rushing a lot more than you predict. That's what Dallas did. That's kind of their hallmark. Detroit rushes a lot more away. So they're more passing. I'll jump over to their 28%. So at home, it's all about the pass. And that means away for Detroit, it's all about the run. And they got enough people to do both. That's why they're so damn good, Dennis. They got
Oh yeah.
people who can lean into their biases, or because they have those people that may be the bias, right? So you can look, Vegas rushes better away, that kind of thing. So now you start getting a sense of the game and how it might go. And then passing, right? The best passer at home is Detroit. They love their dome and they deliver 28% more passing attempts. So who you going to play in your lineups? Probably second, maybe even some long shot plays there. Maybe the third wide receiver on occasion if it's a bye week or something. So Green Bay does it pretty good. And the opposite is Arizona. They save and do 23% more passing away. So at home, they're rushing away, they're passing. Detroit is exactly opposite. So now you got teams that do things exactly different. Again, it may be player centric. Indianapolis loves 24% more passing away than at home, that kind of thing. So I think it sets kind of the map of what teams might use, and realize this is 2024. I do know data does change. It's been a year, coaches, players, etc., rookie drafts, but it's what we have now. Dennis, I will update this about 3 weeks in. This will disappear, or I might keep some of it we can review to see if they've changed. But I will start tracking 3 week running averages of efficiency, home away splits, rushing and passing. So we will start keeping up about 3 weeks in, and it will be the newest data coming up there. So I'm going to stop and let you comment, and then we'll move on.
So when the professor first released the efficiency data, I looked at this and I thought, okay, I understand the concept. Speed, more points, good thing for fantasy football. But I wasn't sure how those trends would change from week to week. But following the 3 week running averages of these all season long, you could see some teams that were improving. You could see some teams that were declining. And the key was, okay, if this is a declining team, am I now catching them? Have they bottomed out? Are they now going to improve? And those were the decisions that you could sometimes pick up on by small movements in the efficiency data. I also love looking at the home away splits because it really does give you an idea to base some decision making. Notice I said some, not all, but some decision making for your fantasy football lineups. Because if I know a team has a particular bias, I can lean into that bias. On the road, I know Detroit's going to rush more than they do at home. So maybe if I'm into a bye week situation or injuries or whatever, I feel better about playing them both and leaning into both Gibbs and Montgomery, getting a
You're talking
little
about
bit
Sonic
more.
and Knuckles, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
get them a little more use on the road and lean into that and play them both. You're going to be in better shape. And then at home, man, I love playing golf in my lineups. I like to find
Mm-hmm.
those spots for golf in my lineup because I like to take advantage of that increased passing attempts. And again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 28% is huge when it comes to a difference between home and away. And playing into those advantages are what you want to do in fantasy football. Now, notice I said playing into those advantages, they have to pass other markers, but it gives you a clue as to a player that maybe I'm more likely to start this guy on the road than at home, or at home versus on the road.
Okay, the next data that we try to have in the matchup lab is looking at Vegas. This is early lines here, but just I haven't released this fully. Maybe I will at the expo do a data poster, but over under numbers, Vegas is telling us that pass attempts and yards are probably going to be higher with higher over under. I've got some data that's suspicious and statistically significant. Okay, I've done it that far, so maybe I will do a poster. I think our friend Greg Kellogg, Hall of Famer, he was enlightened last week on our podcast, Dennis. I think he's going to figure out a way this season to see how that works for him. I hope. That's the whole point. It's not for him to blindly jump in, but somebody like him who's been around the block, this is an opportunity for you to track some of this. And if, Dr. Bush is crazy and the matchup lab sucks and it doesn't help you, fine. And you're saying, well, how would I remember that? Your diary. I have a video on Science of Fantasy Football, how you construct a diary so you keep track of what works, notice, for you, not for me, right? So there is some self-handicapping. We all have, can I say, gifts in data now. You're saying, well, I don't like math. I'm just saying you were born a scientist. We all were. When you were in the high chair and you laughed, your parents turned you back and you threw your spoon down with the stewed prunes and you looked down, you were finding about gravity. And you were finding behavior when the parents were like screaming at you, getting ready to be thrown in your dungeon. You didn't know that came later with your parents throwing you in the closet. Uh, but anyway, you were doing experiments even as a kid. Is this fire hot? Let me stick my hand in there. Yep, I learned a lesson today. And that kind of thing. So we're all natural scientists. So that's the good news. Even if even if fractions Twitter pated you in high school or something, hey, we all hate numerators and denominators. They all suck. But data gives you a point. It's like an arrow, right? It's giving you some idea. And so a low over under is probably warning you that passing yards are probably not going to be as high. And I know the exact number. I forgot, what was it, 16, 20. It was a significant amount of yards less, Dennis. And I'd have to look at my data that I'm probably going to do a poster of now. And you're saying, well, what about 45, right? I've talked about 38. I've talked about, say, 50. Those are extremes this week. What about 45? 45 is 44, 46. That's about average. So I think the clues are not there one way or the other. So don't try to force 46 is telling you something. I think people make a mistake on metrics. They'll try to force something, especially if it's close to average. It's telling you there's not, it's probably time to move on and look for other clues. You don't want to spend all day, well, let's see, the average is 45, but this is 46. No, you just don't have that time, and it's not worth your time. I look at the extremes in a top-down view. Dennis is sold on extremes. Spreads are also giving you some idea and helping you, I think, with high spreads, maybe invites a deeper look into your flex. Notice I didn't say your studs. I mean, if you drafted the Sun God, or I know A.J. Brown, we all were there in some leagues. But, if you would have benched him, I don't know why, then if he went off, you'd been mad. So you're in a catch-22 if you start trying to cut things too thin. But high spreads are telling you something. Low spreads are telling you something. So there's information there. Vegas has a favorite. A lot of times it's the home team, not always. And they have the underdog, and they have predicted. That's just it, predicted scores. It doesn't mean that is the score. But and Dennis Hughes and I, we do talk about props a little bit here. So, we do let this start. For instance, Buffalo, Baltimore, that's supposedly the high game of the week. That's intriguing. There may be some props there that are of interest, that kind of thing. Versus Pittsburgh Jets, there may be some place kicker, might be something there, that kind of thing. You see, now I'm going from one way to the other. And then of the time and the date and the game is just the kind of the way I developed it It's obviously Thursday, Friday are games one and two. The last game is game on Monday and then Monday night. So the rest of them I try to divide here. There's no reason for that, right? So the data is in the Vegas information. Any comments, Dennis?
Yeah, first of all, Vegas is really good at setting an over under. So they're usually within 3 or 4 points in a majority of the games. Sometimes we have seen some issues with the defensive data and the efficiency data that has clued us into the best plays. But generally speaking, Vegas is pretty darn good at setting these over underscores to get the action they want. And that means they're going to be close. They're going to be within, you know, 3 or 4 points on most of these over unders from week to week.
Yeah, and if Dennis, if they wanted a lot of action, if you put Buffalo 60 points, you'd get a lot of action. You'd
If
probably
you get
take
it
a
one
hell of a
way.
lot of loss.
Yes.
But so it's not just action. Realize it's I
To
don't know how
even
you.
the action. You want to
Yeah.
even the action. Yes.
Yeah, because they can do Pittsburgh Jets 20. They'll get action. I mean, there'll be people flying in to take those. Yeah. So anyway, uh, next metric, and I really had to find this. Sometimes the old professor has secret stuff. This is one of those secret things. I call it team power rankings, and you'll notice there's a lot of power rankings thrown about. You probably wonder, well, how did they do that? I don't know. We don't have a power rankings club, Dennis, that we secretly meet. I don't know how they do it. I know how I do it, and it's metric driven. It's not opinion. Okay. If it was my opinion, then it'd probably be different. And I would probably trick myself more than help myself. Nobody, I mean, if you're that good and your opinion is so far above the metrics and some people claim that, then hell, why are you on Twitter? You should just have your suite in Vegas and just, it's like buying bonds. It's just so, you just collecting down there. Just walk in and just have your hand out to the casinos and they fill it up and you go up to your suite and party. Uh, I don't think they let you stay there too long if you take too much of their money. They get cranky, and very few people are that good. And most importantly, if you're that good, you're not on Twitter talking about you're that good. If you got any sense, right? If you're a good poker player, I sure wouldn't walk in with a big wrestling belt on saying I'm the best poker player. That may be some psych schemes, but pretty quick people will find out. And so it's just better to have glasses and a hoodie and walk in. Who is this guy? Well, I don't know. So best not to be known, Dennis. Be secret. And this is secret team power rankings for week one. In green are my better selections. Or when I say my, that's what the metrics have told me. I'm communicating from the number gods to you guys. So I'm coming from Mount Metric down to
Mhm.
the peasants, and I'm throwing this information out to you. Detroit should be the best team of the week. Notice I didn't say they're going to win because, right? Worthy got hurt last night. I thought the Chiefs
Yep.
had it, I was just all over the Chiefs, and all of a sudden, whew, the rug got pulled out. I think their game plan got rattled, and they got better in the second half. Did you notice that?
Oh,
Andy
yeah.
Reid really changed it up because they had time to cipher what to do when their main game plan went out the door. Tennessee is predicted to be the weakest team. Doesn't mean they won't score some touchdowns. But anyway, it's a way for you to start balancing in your head again the beginning, not the end here. But in especially flex, I get real nervous going too deep in flex with teams that have a weak power ranking. Other words, we all know that there are deeper running backs and wide receivers out there, right? Wide receiver 2, 3. I mean, sometimes you have to draft some of those. I get a little nervous trying to shoehorn some into a flex from the weak teams. On the other hand, on the stronger teams, I feel a lot better about reaching in, right? So Addison, who is it? Williams for Detroit. I'm going to think a little hard about him. He might get our 13 points, which would be good for a second or third flex, that kind of thing. The Denver, Cincinnati, I know we're all playing T. Higgins, but maybe some deeper ones. So those are where I'm looking. Atlanta there, if Mooney's healthy, he might, be on our radar. Maybe even if Mooney's not healthy, maybe Ray McLeod. We forgot about him. He had some weeks. So that's how I like to use this. But I've scaled the rankings, the average rankings, and then the scaled rankings, and I put it in this chart here.
One of the things that I like to use this for is if a team is deep in the red, I'm probably not playing more than one player off of that team. If a team is deep in the green, I'm more likely to double up. I'm more likely to play a Goff and Sun God stack, or you know, uh, playing Gibbs and Sun God, or Gibbs and Jameson Williams, or Gibbs and Laporta. I'm more likely to double up or even maybe triple up from those teams because they're expected to score more points than the guys in the red. Now, one thing I'll point out to you in the power rankings, or point out to everybody in the power rankings. So this was for week one. Look
Yep.
where Dallas, Philadelphia, the Chargers,
Chargers.
and KC
Yep.
are on these charts. They were all very close together.
And the
So,
games were pretty close.
and the games were very close. In fact, Dallas had Philadelphia beat, if not for that Sanders fumble. And Dallas showing up stronger on the power rankings. This was not a mirage, folks. There was actual
And the
data.
Chargers were showing up over the Chiefs, especially
Just,
after Worthy. Boy, that
yep. Oh, yeah.
really.
And you take their top guy off, and that puts Kansas City in the red.
Yeah.
If you take their top wide
Yeah, if
receiver away.
I knew, if somebody told me Worthy, I would have rerun the metrics. I think Kansas City would have dropped a little further.
It
Yes,
would have been in the red. So
I
that's
think you're
the
right.
thing is one little thing that happens during the game at the very beginning of the game can skew the metrics, but the metrics were pretty darn good because they were saying, hey, Dallas is going to hang with Philly. And this is their offense, okay? This is the offense is going to hang with Philly, and they did.
And they
They went
rushed more. The home away bias was
correct.
suspicious.
Yep.
And Dennis played Javante. We had a discussion, and I take credit to say compared to I don't was it Caleb Johnson?
Caleb Johnson
And
was
I
the
said I
choice.
think
Yep.
Javante's safer. I know people weren't
Yep.
saying that before, but I was, Dennis and I had that discussion, and I said it's safer. I mean, I released our text so fantasy receipts they can check us. But
And
anyway,
here
yeah, go
and
ahead.
here's how this play evolved because I was pretty close, but I was leaning slightly Javante. He had Javante in the lineup, but I wasn't sold that that was the right way to go. But I knew that every game last year, when Javante Williams got 15 or more touches,
I remember that.
he was in double figures.
Yep.
okay, for fantasy points. So maybe not the most efficient guy, but if I can get 12 to 15 points out of a guy at running back position, I'm okay with that because it's going to keep me in the game versus a rookie where I'm uncertain how many touches he's going to get week one. So as soon as Jadon Blue was declared inactive, that became an easy slam dunk start for me. And I had no, but that's the way you have to look
And
at
you
everything.
commented as soon as I saw it's like, I should have, I had two or three. I didn't have a lot of him, frankly.
A lot of
At that
shares of
point,
no,
yeah, I should have, because your comment after they dropped Blue, they're going to ride him tonight. So
they're
we were
gonna ride
already
him.
there, and silly me. Sometimes I don't fully let the data sweep me in, but I should have. I didn't play enough of him in the few places I had him, and that was sad. So I'm still sad about that. Okay, next, Dennis, this is brand new data that you haven't seen. I'm going to catch up with rushing, but I decided I wanted to look a little bit deeper at team tendencies for passing attempt, PA passing attempts. So I calculated 2022, 23, 24, and green is in the top 10, 15%, reds in the bottom 10, 20%. And you can see I mark those, and there's some that are not marked. That means they're pretty much average. And then here's the grand total, 3 year total. You can see who's who. The 3 year total, the ones that didn't pass a lot, Atlanta, Baltimore, surprisingly, probably forgot about that. Chicago, Philly, and you're probably surprised, but now I was like, uh, I need to think about that because that means that AJ Brown has made his living in a team that is a little, they're stingy with passing attempts because of Hurts and all the others with Barkley. So maybe there's something there. Pittsburgh, Frisco, Tennessee, historically last 3 years not passing. The Green, on the other hand, tended to pass more. And you could look at those. Love Tampa Bay and Baker. Everybody's on him. There it is. And then I scaled their 3 year average to the average of the league and then plotted that. And I hadn't had time to stain the greens and the reds, but I showed it here, but I didn't. I sorted this and so Cincinnati number one over 3 years, right? Tampa Bay number two, Minnesota, KC, Chargers, Jets, Cleveland. There's a surprise. Cleveland has been highly involved in passing. They just hadn't had the people to execute here, but just keep that in mind. People might underestimate Cleveland this year if they can find the right. If Tillman and some of these other ones can connect, they may be a little trickier than you think there. And then here are the ones that didn't tend. Baltimore, look at that. Chicago, Tennessee, Arizona, Philly, right there, Frisco, they tend not to pass as much. So I think, again, giving you some more support for your thinking or taking away that support, right? Like, ooh, why am I here? I think for flex, Dennis, this is something to consider. Again, if you start deciding sitting studs and not, you can get burned. There are good players that will fight through any situation, and we just don't want to. I don't have the metrics, folks, to say the sun god should never be played. It's going to be maybe a howling snowstorm up in Buffalo or something that might take me off him and maybe not fully. It's going to take something amazing. But if I'm looking at my second or third flex and there's something going on, you know, and some of these teams that don't pass us, it just tells me, well, I'm probably maybe looking at, I mean, if they're bad at passing, maybe they're better at running. So maybe the flex might be the running backs, maybe a second running back that has standalone value. If Spears comes back for Tennessee, maybe on certain occasions he's worth a play in this, a situation. So I think this data can add or take away from thinking. And, you do need to go through this. Notice we hadn't got to players. I mean, we've mentioned players, but Dennis, I go top down, and that's how I'm presenting the data, thinking at the team level and just getting a sense of what is the team? What has this team been? What could it be this week? I mean, I've got some week data, week one data with the power rankings. So I'm just trying to set the environment, right? You go into a bar and you can't see in front of you, and there's red stuff on the floor, and you're wondering what that red is. It's probably not paint, folks. It's probably time to ease on out, right? Especially if there's a drain on the floor. I learned that going south of the border. It's like, why is the bar having a drain? That's to rinse off the blood after the fights. I should have known, but college kid, whoo, let's party in Mexico. I didn't, of course, this was in the 70s. It might be a little, in quote, a little safer. But these days, I think I done made the wrong turn at Albuquerque right here and ease on out the door, Dennis. So look for the drain in the floor. Use the metrics, and if it's showing you a drain on the floor, think about changing your lineup.
Very good advice. It's always very good advice to be wary
Yeah,
about weird things that can happen.
yeah.
We don't like that. We
No.
we like to stay away from the nasty things. But no,
So,
the
Dennis, this is
the
a snapshot.
love
I
it.
think I'm going to be including it, and then I'll update it, of course, with 3 week uh, data with the passing. And what I do is I do passing attempts and rushing in context of home away for the team. So I want to know, is there bias this year? So about 3 weeks in, we'll start seeing team biases that will clue us in one way or the other. So this is coming, folks. So we're going to build, right? This is not the end. We're going to get better uh, at lineups and props and things over the season.
More data, the better you're going to do. And
Okay, Dennis, we are down to the matchup lab, looking at some of the best two games to focus, the Husky or the Squirrels. So, what you want to do first? The bad
well,
ones or the
let's
good ones?
let's look at the low scoring games first. So let's look at the most squirrely of the squirrels. Let's look at Pittsburgh and the New York Jets.
Yeah, so let me, gotta find that here. Here it is. So, here is the format that we present this overall landscape. So this is the game landscape here with Vegas, and I've got some other metrics called DAP DAPS, and there's my efficiency metrics. So let me just go a little long on this, Dennis, and then we won't have to do that for this. But the top, I've got the predicted score based on Vegas. I haven't checked the latest over under, but it was 38, spread 3. Pittsburgh is away, so it's an away favorite. That's interesting versus the Jets. To me, when the home team is not taken as the favorite, that you know that mean Vegas is really making a statement there. And I know Jets have some good players, but Vegas is not convinced that Philly won't beat them here, so they're the dog. 22-16. Okay, uh, is what's going on. So that sets the, and 38, folks, is extremely low. The passing yards are going to be lower than normal and certainly much lower than the better games this week. So there's going to be lack of passing PPR points, maybe, especially in your flexes. I wouldn't go too deep past the number ones on this if I had to play them, Dennis. So that's a warning here. Don't get too cute with too many depth plays and any props. As much as some of these wide receiver twos or RB twos or the props are dangling out there, sometimes that apple has worm in it. And I would assume with 38, there's a lot of worms in those prop apples. So I would pass there. The next segment, I give you the game, and that's just is fourth. Week one, season segment, I like to track that. The team, Jets and Pittsburgh, home away. Jets are at home. Pittsburgh's away. And then I have some OPP, that's offense of the opposing team. So the opponent, if it's red, mean it's really tough. If it's green, it's really easy. And if it's no color, it's about average. So this says Pittsburgh's defense, again, last year, and I will have this year's data after about 3 weeks, so we'll catch up. So the overall DAP, Dennis, defense against position. So last year, Philadelphia against its opponent's offense, tough. They shut them down. They suffocated them. It looks tough for the Jets. Vegas is aware of that. Vegas did not reward the Jets for being at home. I think some of that is it's Pittsburgh's D. The running back DAP says below average. It's a little bit more breathing room there, but still below average for the Brees Hall or Braylon Allen. People are still debating that. I'm a little concerned. I would probably play Hall if I had him. Not sure if I play Allen until I know the split or two, and it could be a couple weeks. Don't get tricked. Quarterback, uh, tough, tough for the Jets quarterback. Wide receivers, a little bit tough. There may be a little bit of opening. I wouldn't get deep on my flex. Tight end has an opportunity, Dennis, and the kicker and the D. Anytime you see below average, you don't want to stream those defenses and kickers. I would pass. So that's the Jets. Philadelphia, on the other hand, the Jets are about average, and there's nothing that scares me too much. A little bit of toughness, but the quarterback. So that's Rodgers, right? He's still in the league.
Oh, yeah.
So, he might get lucky and he's got his energy, his noodle arm. It's kind of like that al dente pasta. It's a little bit stronger week one. Okay. It's going to get noodly later, but right now, week one, a little bit of an advantage. Maybe, I would probably play Pittsburgh's number one, the rushing. I think Pittsburgh could do. Love Boswell kicker streaming. I streamed a lot of Boswell, especially with Bass on IR, Dennis. I had about 5 or 6 leagues where I had to trade him out, and my number one fab selection is Boswell, just because of that right there, that easy. You're saying that can you predict kickers, folks? You can't predict anything 100%, right? Just the tendency suggests, could be some goodness. And again, we're talking el dente noodle arm. Uh, you like that? You didn't know I was going to say that, did you? Actually, I didn't know, and I just thought of that. I guess I was thinking spaghetti for supper. Anyway, I was hungry. I wouldn't play the defense at all. Overall, last year's efficiency, Pittsburgh was a 53 out of 100, and Jets 33. So Pittsburgh has the advantage. Yards, points per second, so they can generate more in shorter time than the Jets. Home away split, really nothing on both. They're basically as good away as home. Jets want to 12% more rush. So uh, it looks like the Jets have an opportunity to get Brees Hall going 12% more. So that kind of strengthens my opinion. If you did draft him as your two, he's probably who you're going to have to play this. I don't know who your three is. Maybe, Eckler or something that's, something else that's catching your attention. Passing doesn't matter. Pittsburgh tends to pass away about 10%. So maybe a little bit more running than we might think, but I don't think anything is selling me off any of the wide receivers per Pittsburgh that I can see. Playing that kicker for sure. I'm more confident about that than anybody else.
Well, we're going to add a little wrinkle to this
Uh-oh.
game
Uh-oh.
because we're going to add the threat of some rain
Ooh, you didn't tell me
for
that.
for
Yeah.
this game. So that's going to be another factor that could come into play. I'm not sold that we're looking at, a horrible, horrible rainstorm or really, really bad winds, but a little bit of rain will add to it. The other thing I'm going to mention is that New York Jets efficiency data at just 33.8. That was established with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. And this year, Aaron Rodgers playing for Pittsburgh. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those numbers fall for Pittsburgh and rise for the New York Jets because Justin Fields is going to get some yards with his legs. He's going to probably be pretty good to get maybe 70, 80 yards in this game with his legs. So that will kind of factor in. I do like the Jets to win this one, but I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few turnovers for both teams. So it could be a bit of a grinder of a low scoring game. So you want to pick your players that you spot start very efficiently. I agree. I wouldn't be on Braylon Allen until I see what the split is going to be. Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson are okay starters, but I'm not really thrilled about anybody in this game because of the low score.
And I do include my rankings, and this is metrically driven. This is not my opinion. It's secret sauce. And I put them into three buckets: high uncertainty, UNC; average uncertainty, low uncertainty. So, low uncertainty means that the ranking that the metrics spit out, I'm more confident that it's closer to what's reality. High uncertainty means there's probably a high floor ceiling. Be cautious. And note, I have Aaron Rodgers at 6 out of 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Jalen Warren is 51. That's about an RB 2, 3 type. So I'm not enamored, and I think he's high uncertainty. With that said, if you're a gambling person and you just got to bet the mortgage, then that high uncertainty implies that he could be in the 70s or he could be in the 30s, Dennis. He could be an RB6 or an RB2. I'm not sure it's worth the mortgage, but there you go. Caleb is a 40, average uncertainty. It's very possible those guys are pretty much tied if you throw in that. And 40 is more an RB3 type. So I'm cautious. Jonnu Smith and Fryermuth, the metrics can't pick them. They say Smith's, they're believing the 47, 48 better, but that's still a tight end too, folks. In a premium, in an emergency, and I don't know why you'd have a week one emergency, but if you do, then if you have Darren Waller and you had Smith, then I guess you better play Smith because Waller's doubtful to play for Miami. Metcalf, I do think, has an opportunity for Pittsburgh, but again, 62 is close to a WR3 two type, but it's high uncertainty. So he could be in the 80s or it could be in the 40s, Dennis. That, you know, I mean, if you drafted him as your two, you probably got to play him. If you draft him as your three, you might look elsewhere or be cautious if you have multiple leagues like me. Maybe play half your shares. Don't know. Certainly in best ball, you'll get what you get. The Jets, Dennis, I have Fields at 43, much better than Aaron Rodgers. So I do see hope there. Brees Hall, I have 63, Brian Allen, half that at 33. So again, high uncertainty means that they can meet, you know, they can both suck, Dennis, or Brees Hall could make you curse that you didn't play him. So you need to think about that here. Uh, Mason Taylor for the tight end, I'm passing, but it's a 43. Garrett Wilson's the only play, and he's average uncertainty, so it's closer to that, maybe 77 versus 57. So a 3-4 to maybe a nice two is Wilson. So I think Wilson, of all the players besides the kicker, he probably, the way I'm reading this, would be more of my play. And then I guess Metcalf would be if I had a tier, Dennis, it would be Boswell, Wilson, Metcalf. And that's probably, and maybe Hall, maybe. I'm just a little worried about this Braylon Allen, and you just don't know if that's real or Memorex, but that would be my fourth. If I was ranking these in some type of daily fantasy sports tournament or something, I guess maybe I'd play Brees Hall for a gamble, but that'd be it.
I'd be looking elsewhere. I don't have that much exposure to Pittsburgh, with the exception of Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren, but I'm probably letting them sit on the bench unless I'm really desperate at running back. Garrett Wilson, I will play as my WR2, and Brees Hall, I'll play as my WR or my RB2, but I ain't crazy about either one. If I have a better option, I will go shopping because I think this could be an ugly game. One of the other scoreless games is Tennessee versus Denver, and there's some interesting players in this one as well, and that's game 12 on your old charts.
Yeah, let me find the game 12 here, Dennis. I've got all these. I will post them all for our Science and Fantasy Football viewers. So if you're curious, and now that you've heard us, maybe you can do a little bit yourself. Keep your diary, okay? And if you've got questions, bug Dennis or I, especially Dennis. Okay. I'm bad. I'm a crabby old professor. Come on, y'all don't want my opinion. Uh, and let's see here, Dennis, just straighten it out. Okay. Denver 30, Tennessee 12. Goodness.
Oof.
Goodness. Denver's at home. Bo Nix, lots of discussion about all Denver's chances, and Vegas is buying along here. They four field goals, maybe. Maybe they'll accidentally get a touchdown. This is lean. This is the highest spread game. I don't know if it's gone up or down. -9. 42 is a little low, Dennis. I'm not. This is one of those where you like, so you wouldn't play Denver's RB2 in your flat. No, I think with this kind of crazy spread, it's saying the question is, should you play anybody from Tennessee is the question. And Denver, you could, I think there's some hope there, for like Cortland Sutton. Mims maybe has been making a splash. So maybe there's something there, and the running back. So we'll see. Denver, though, plays against at home I'm looking at the DAPS now. Tennessee is tough, but they're only tough against the wide receivers and tight ends. It's weird, but they let the quarterback, give Nix an opportunity to find. I mean, give anybody enough time, and Tennessee's going to be in trouble if on that. So I know that there's a tough last year against wide receivers, but it's one of these things where it's like, well, how come the depths are divided like that? It just there's running quarterbacks, there's timing of things, and the opponents they faced last year. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty yet. Week one, come on, folks. But that's I'm not scared of probably anybody based on Tennessee, but it is warning us that there could be some interceptions and stuff. And you want to play Denver's D, by the way. Denver is a nice streamer this week. Probably people got him for the whole season. Kickers all in, running backs all in, so looking good. Tennessee is below average, and notice there's no tough there. So Denver's defense might be is a little weaker than you think, Dennis. So maybe there is a little hope for Tennessee through the running backs, and the quarterback doesn't have as much pressure. So I'm not discounting Tennessee can't get more than 12. My thing, if you're thinking, well, sounds like you're saying the over. Well, to me, does Denver need 30? So it could be still the under, right? If they have 24 points and Tennessee, has 3, do they really need to keep scoring, or do they, pull out the anchor and run, run, run? So I'm not sure Denver needs 30 points. I'd be a little cautious if you're betting a prop for, Denver at 30 points. I don't know if they need 30, Dennis, to whip this team. So not sure about all of it, but it's week one, but that's what this data says, Dennis. So I'll stop here.
Yeah, and I think when we look at teams that have had big changes, and Tennessee's had a lot of big changes, I think we can expect the numbers to improve somewhat. And I think there's opportunity here for Tennessee to score more points than the projected 12. I would expect them to be more in the 17 to 20 range. And I think Cam Ward is going to have some success
If you
against
think
Denver.
that, then over might be the play.
I think over is the play, but I still think Denver is a better team than Tennessee from top to bottom. And at home, Denver's tough. So I
Yes,
like
I forgot to
Denver
say
to win this one.
22% home away split, 77% efficient. They're one of the top ones last year, Dennis. They're if they can do that again, they're going to be competitive in the playoffs. They tend to rush a little more, 6%, but really that's not. Tennessee's the same. So there's nothing really. But I will say Tennessee is 22% more efficient away. That last year was a
Crazy.
strange team. So if
Crazy.
they've got it some changes, they play better away. I just Dennis might be right on the over there, so that might be worth your play here. Ranking wise, I got Bo Nix low uncertainty 58, so probably a quarterback too. I don't. If you draft him as your one, I'd look at your other one just to see if the matchup is any better. Love Will Lutz. Love the defense. Uh, Harvey is average. So he could be 66, almost a solid RB2 or worse. Dobbins the same. So they could actually meet as RB3 types. So just be aware. Harvey's a rookie, right, Dennis? Yeah.
Correct.
So not sure what we got. I do like Ingram, but be aware, high uncertainty. I think if Tennessee has some life and is a little stronger in the rush, Ingram could be a tight end one this week, low tight end one, then a 72, maybe 75, half of that, but could be but I mean, I don't know how you gamble if you hadn't seen the team yet, but if you in case you drafted Ingram as your one, you probably got to play him. Cortland Sutton and Mims seem to be the top two. Sutton is probably a WR 2-3 type, Mims 3-4 type, but you may need them in your flex. Probably you drafted Sutton as your three, maybe your two, so you probably have to play. Mims, I think, was more of I better pick him up. He's a good handcuff. If Sutton goes down, then Mims moves up. So if he's out on your waiver, folks, I might just sprinkle him back if you could. I think there might be a little taste there for you in bye weeks. I mean, you don't have to do it this way. I'd do a dollar play where everybody's looking elsewhere, Dennis. If he's out there, probably in ESPN or Yahoo leagues, you could probably get him for a dollar or maybe zero. And then let's see who's next. Tennessee, Cam Ward, I got us at 13, Dennis. So the metrics and the DAPs are. Pollard is, probably the play. He could be an RB2 this week. That could be the surprise. Uh, Chiggy could be an RB. I mean, a tight end two. I'm probably playing Ingram over him if that's my choice. Ridley could be a 2-3 type this week, or he could be a 3-4 type. Lockett on your best ball might catch a touchdown, a tipped ball in the end zone. And Dennis and I stockpiled uh, Arroyo Manor, Arroyo Manor, or Yo Manor. I don't know how you say that. I apologize, but he might be a dollar stash as well, Dennis, on that. So I mentioned some stashes there for a dollar. Nothing aggressive.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how I read some of these splits. Tennessee, Pollard is going to be the man all day. Spears is out. And Ridley should be the target hog, but Ayomanar, or however you pronounce it,
Yeah,
Mr. Elite could be elite. How about that?
yeah.
He's a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. On the Pitts or the Denver side of things, I'm just not sure where the split goes between RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. So I'm playing it as a wait and see at this point. If I have to start either one, in a flex, I'm okay with that. If I had to start both, I'd be okay with that this week. But until I see where they're going, I'm looking for other sources for my lineups. All right, that's the squirrel games. Let's go to the Huskier games and
Buffalo.
let's go. Let's save that one for last. Let's go to
Okay.
Detroit, Green Bay.
Detroit, Green Bay. That's number 13. Let's find Detroit, Green Bay. Here we go. Green Bay, 26. Detroit, 21. Green Bay is at home. Detroit is away in open field. Vegas is aware of the home splits of Detroit and Goff. That plays against him a little bit. If there's any wind or anything funky, that could hurt Goff here. Spread about a field goal 47. Okay, seems with the firepower on Detroit, that seems just low on its face. However, if you look at the DAPS, Dennis, Detroit is facing a tough, at least last year, folks, last year, quotes, last year, one more warning, tough offensive DAPS. So Green Bay was tough on their opponents. The tight ends, for whatever reason, Laporta should have opportunity here if the Green Bay defense is what it is. So if there are props out there for Laporta, I might throw a $2 prop, folks. I'm a $2 better, so it's not time to break out the mortgage here, mortgage payment. But $2, maybe, maybe tie him with Ingram or something, get you a little parlay going here with tight ends. The running backs, Sonic and Knuckles, I think they're going to be leading Detroit. Look at the rush with Detroit, Dennis. 14% more away. The Green Bay is giving them that. So I think Detroit is going to try to push rushing and short Laporta passes. And the Sun God, he'll get his, but I wouldn't get too deep past him, Dennis. I'd be cautious getting any deep flex for Williams or anything. I think I'd let him, stay out there in the water. If I hooked him, I'd let him go back in there. I would not stream either of these defenses or kickers. Green Bay against Detroit, it says Jordan Love pass all day, all night. It's just who they passing to. Golden is supposedly the golden boy. Reed may play, and Reed is boom or bust. But boy, when he booms, Dennis, he'll get you 2 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, he will.
And he might be in my flex if I've got him in a few places. I did squirrel him in a few places. He was hurt, but I said, but you were getting him. I was getting him as my 4 or 5 in drafts, and I just was thinking, I could use that on occasion. So I did get him, kind of my Tyler Lockett for this year kind of play. In best ball, I would have had Reed all day long there for Green Bay. Love is my second quarterback, more of a streamer. I shifted to him over Dak, Dennis, everywhere I could. My hopes are with Love versus Dak, and I had Herbert as well. Played him. I really did not play any of my Dak shares this week, so I felt good about that decision here. So it looks to me like Green Bay, the rushing is going to be to keep them honest, the Detroit, but I think the big PAL points in Green Bay's 26 will come from the wide receivers here. Kraft, maybe again a tipped ball in the end zone. I'm not sure. If you've got to play him, he's your one, then you probably got to play him. But I'm a little cautious. Maybe he can get 4 or 5 catches and keep you afloat this week. Efficiency last year, 90 versus 50. So
Oof.
Detroit has, but that's counting home games. Home away split, 14% less efficient. Green Bay, about the same, 5%. So Detroit's got an issue being away. They want to rush. They do not want to pass, 28% less passing. Uh, Green Bay loves to rush and loves to pass. They are a weird team on the splits, Dennis. They do really good at home in both categories. I'm not sure there was another team that had that characteristic to where they were extreme in both. That's a strange, that means away. They must really suck Green Bay away. Let's keep track of that. But we're at home, so that's how I see there. Green Bay, Jacobs, I think he's good for an RB2, even against a tough situation. I know I like Love a lot at 40 is not. I wish that number was higher, but I don't. That's not my opinion. So my opinion is higher than the metrics here. Jacobs and Dennis, who's the number 2? In case somebody wants to squirrel away
It
any of
it would
those?
be it would be Emmanuel Wilson because Marshawn Lloyd is hurt right now.
Okay, so for $1, you might, before this game gets off, you never know about injuries. Kraft is a 61. That's a two. I know you drafted him as your one. This is a tough thing. Golden, Reed, and Dobbs. Look at those numbers, Dennis. It's saying they are three threes. So who steps out of that mix? That that looks like it's cutting everybody. I like Golden for upside just because he's got springy legs. Reed could take over. He's still, he was a little hurt, so I don't know what we're getting. And Dobbs is always a threat as well. So that's a strange situation. I'm not sure what to make of that. Golf at 37, Dennis. The metrics are warning us.
Yep.
Gibbs, 93, Dennis. They love to rush away. There it
Yes.
is. There is the play. Look at Laporta, 83. That is nice. So again, that's my two scorers for Detroit. Like I said, hard not to play Brown. Love him at 80. That's a WR2 one type. Williams, I think I'm passing. Unless something happens, warm ups that Brown gets hurt, then I'd play Williams. What you think?
So the data on Detroit, as far as being easy for the quarterback and the wide receiver,
Yep.
that happened after their pass rush was decimated by injuries. So everybody's healthy, but they've got a little bit of a patch and fill job in the defensive backfield. So does that even out? I don't know. One thing I think is we're going to see more of a defensive battle than what the DAPS might indicate or the over under might indicate, because I think the DAPS, you might be able to hold them all true on the Detroit side going against Green Bay. If anything, Green Bay might have gotten a little bit tougher even, which is bad news for golf shares. And
Mm-hmm.
on the Green Bay side, I think it's a little bit tougher for Love and a little bit tougher for the wide receivers than we would have been thinking at this time at the end of last year versus the start of this year. So I still like Green Bay to win at home. There's going to be enough wind to give Goff some potential trouble. But you're starting your main guys for Detroit. You're not looking away. You're looking away from Goff if you have a different choice. I'm okay with playing Love, but I'd also look for a better choice. I did play Love over Baker Mayfield, but in lineups where I have to decide between, I'm sorry, I played Love ahead of Dak, but in lineups where I have Baker Mayfield, I'll probably play Baker
Yeah,
ahead of
I'm
Jordan
having
Love.
that choice, and I went Baker.
Yeah. So let's take a look at our final Husky game of the week. And it is a big clash between Titans of the AFC, Baltimore, and Buffalo.
26-24. I don't know. The favoritism could have flipped. I haven't looked at the latest numbers. Dennis, have you? I mean, 1 point spread, in 50, it could be different. Have you taken a look at the latest
So
money
it's
lines?
actually flipped the opposite way. It
Yep.
opened with the with Buffalo just a narrow 1 point favorite. Is now 1 point favoritism to Baltimore
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah. So in some ways, always was a pick 'em.
It is a pick 'em.
And
Yes.
50 and a half implies lots of passing yards per team. I would guess, Dennis, I'm guessing about 450 passing yards total. And I might be off because we got both rushing. On average, that's what this would imply is around 400. So 200 yards each. And but this is weird because both of those quarterbacks love to rush. So but again, when you say average, that means across a large sample. This is a weird two rushing quarterback situation. But, I don't know if they have total yard props. I don't know enough to know that. Daps, Buffalo, Baltimore against Buffalo. Buffalo, believe it or not, is above average easy. And there you go, right there for Baltimore. RB, Dennis. And, it's saying King Henry, I got him at 83 on the metrics here. There it is. And wide receivers, looks like Flowers, Bateman may be able to collect, and nothing stopping, you know, uh, what's his name, Dennis? It's what happens when you get old. Lamar, yeah. So I'm happy playing all my Baltimore, all my Buffalo. Nothing is stopping me except I would not stream the defenses. So they have a weird situation where they don't give up the ball much or catch or fumble. I wouldn't play the kickers. Certainly Tyler Bass is, I don't even know who's taking his place. So I'm letting all that slide. The tight ends, I know Andrews could get something. If he's your one, you probably got to play him. I would definitely not play Kincaid. But if you draft him as your one, then there you go. Hopefully you got some streamer options there. Buffalo was 100 last year, Baltimore 50 roughly, so they're favored in efficiency. Home away splits, Buffalo's 8% better, Baltimore's 4% less. At home, rush, Baltimore loves to rush. So there you go. They're going to be James Cook all day long. Baltimore loves to rush at home, but pass more balanced in away games. Dennis, Buffalo Cook is 88, 68, so you probably got to play him. Ray Davis, I would squirrel away for $1. Don't wait. And even if you got a deep bench, in some places, Dennis, I got both these guys for, way deep. So I was greedy and got there. Tyler is out. I don't even know who's in, but I wouldn't play him.
41-year-old Matt Prater has been
Uh,
signed.
okay. Kincaid, I probably wouldn't play at 54. Shakir at Coleman at 50, wide receiver three types. Nothing, I'm really not enamored. I do note that Palmer is 45 even, so it's almost three W3 types, and so that makes it hard. There's no dominant. The metrics give Shakir a little bit, but not enough to. I wouldn't play Coleman or Palmer. I'm not sure I'll play Shakir, at this point here. So Cook is my play, and Allen's my play here for Buffalo. Baltimore, of course, you're playing Lamar, playing King Henry. Is it Justice Hill or Keaton Mitchell? You
It
might,
could be either guy.
so again, you might squirrel $1 before everybody's awake for next week. You never know. For $1 and Henry gets hurt and you've already picked him up, I'm just saying. Andrews, 72, so that's a tight end two type. Uh, I don't know. Uh, if he's my one and I have no other choice, I'm going to play him. Flowers is intriguing to me, but if I've got better picks, because that's at best could be a 74, could be a WR 2 to 4. Dennis, it's a floor ceiling thing that worries me. Bateman at 45, I'm not feeling either one of those unless I gotta there.
So
Okay.
with Baltimore, obviously you're playing Lamar, you're playing King Henry. I'm playing Andrews with confidence, even though it's not the greatest matchup for him against this Buffalo defense. On the Buffalo side, I'm playing Josh Allen. I'm playing James Cook. I'm probably waiting for the wide receiver situation to pan out with both teams. Plus, I think passing volume might be surprisingly down with two quarterbacks that love to get out and run. Overall, I'm going to take Buffalo in this pick 'em, and I'm going to say the over is going to be. I expect this to be the highest scoring game of the week, even higher than what Vegas is thinking. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams are close to last year's season average, which was 30 points a game.
Wow.
That puts us up in the mid to upper 50s, is where I expect this over under to be. And I expect lots of goodness from both quarterbacks in this affair. So that's kind of how I see that one, Professor. And
I think we
I
put
think
it to bed, the first matchup lab. So episode
absolutely.
one.
So
Yeah.
head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. You can see the data that goes behind these numbers that we used. And of course, check out the Science of Fantasy Football podcast over there as well. And come on back here
And
next
our
week.
affiliate,
Yes,
the TSA, the sports affiliate. We got to learn these, Dennis.
the sports affiliation. We are proud to be
Right.
here. And we'll be back next week for another edition of the Matchup Lab.
Get to work, folks. Let's see.
All right, that went a little longer.